Fear is a quiet thief. It doesn't barge in with a loud crash or a flashing sign. It creeps, whispers, lingers in the shadows of your mind, stealing your dreams one doubt at a time. My name is Kai, and for years, I was its prisoner. Not locked in a cell of iron, but one I built myself, brick by brick, fear by fear. I was 29, living a life that looked fine on the outside, a steady job, a small apartment, a routine that ticked along like a metronome. But inside, I was suffocating. I had a dream, to stand on a stage, to speak words that moved hearts, to be a voice that lifted souls. But every time I thought of chasing it, fear clamped its cold hands around my heart. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I wasn't enough? This is my story, not of a hero, but of a man who learned to break his own chains, to turn fear into fuel, to soar beyond the prison of his own mind. If you've ever felt trapped by your doubts, this is for you. I grew up in a small town where dreams were kept small, safe, predictable. My parents were proud of my stability, a desk job at an insurance firm, a paycheck that paid the bills. But every night, I'd lie awake, imagining myself on a stage, my voice echoing through a room, people leaning forward, hanging on my words. I'd watch speakers like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, legends who made transformation feel possible. I wanted that, not fame, but impact. I wanted to tell stories that sparked hope, to help people see their own strength. But the moment I'd think of starting, fear would slither in. "You're not charismatic enough," it whispered. "You'll stutter. You'll freeze. They'll see right through you." I'd push the dream down, bury it under spreadsheets and coffee runs, convincing myself I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was fading. Fear is a liar, but it's a convincing one. It doesn't just tell you you'll fail. It makes you believe you're destined to. I remember the first time I tried to face it. A colleague invited me to a local Toastmasters meeting, a place to practice public speaking. I showed up, heart pounding, palms sweaty, and sat in the back. When they asked for volunteers to give a 2-minute talk, I froze. My mouth went dry, my legs felt like lead. I stayed silent, watching others stumble and shine, while my fear laughed. "See? You don't belong here." I left that meeting hating myself, vowing never to try again. Napoleon Hill once said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire." But my desire was drowning in doubt, and I didn't know how to save it. The turning point came in the quietest way. I was scrolling through YouTube one night, numb from another day of monotony, when I stumbled on a video about Thomas Edison. The man tried 10,000 times to perfect the light bulb, facing ridicule, setbacks, even fires that destroyed his work. Yet he kept going, not because he was fearless, but because he believed each failure brought him closer to light. Something clicked. Edison didn't wait for fear to vanish, he worked through it. I realized my fear wasn't a wall, it was a door. A heavy one, sure, but one I could push open. I made a decision that night. I wasn't going to let fear write my story. I was going to write it myself, one shaky step at a time. That decision wasn't a lightning bolt. It didn't banish my doubts or fill me with courage, but it gave me something more powerful, a spark of belief. Hill called it definiteness of purpose, knowing what you want and refusing to let anything stop you. My purpose was to speak, to inspire, to make a difference. I started small, because small was all I could handle. I went back to Toastmasters, not as a spectator, but as a speaker. My first talk was a disaster, stuttering, forgetting my lines, my face burning as I fumbled through 3 minutes. But I finished, and that finish, as messy as it was a victory. I'd faced the fear and survived. It wasn't pretty, but it was progress. Belief needs action to grow, like a seed needs water. I committed to showing up every week, no matter how scared I was. I'd practice in my apartment, talking to my mirror, my cat, sometimes just the walls. I'd record myself, cringe at my awkward pauses, then do it again. Hill said, Effort only fully releases its reward after a person refuses to quit. I refused. I studied great speakers, dissecting their cadence, their gestures, their stories. I read books on communication, psychology, storytelling. Each speech got a little better, each critique a little less painful. I wasn't just learning to speak, I was learning to trust myself. And trust, I found, is the antidote to fear. Discipline turned my spark into a flame. I set rules, practiced daily, speak monthly, learn constantly. If I was tired, I practiced. If I felt unworthy, I practiced. If fear screamed, "You'll never be good enough," I practiced louder. I started a blog, sharing my journey of overcoming fear, my voice shaky but honest. At first, it was just my mom reading it, maybe a cousin or two. But I kept writing, kept posting, kept speaking. Slowly, people noticed. A local community center asked me to give a talk on resilience. I said yes, even though my stomach churned. 50 people showed up, and I spoke, nervously, imperfectly, but authentically. Afterward, a woman came up, tears in her eyes, and said, "Your story made me feel like I can try again." That moment was worth every sleepless night. Discipline needs vision to soar. I began to see beyond my small town, beyond my cubicle. I saw stages, auditoriums, thousands of faces looking to me for hope. I named my dream Ignite, a mission to spark courage in others, to help them break free from their own fears. Hill's mastermind principle taught me to surround myself with allies. I found a mentor, a retired speaker who saw my potential. I joined online communities, connecting with other aspiring speakers. They weren't just contacts, they were proof I wasn't alone. Together, we shared tips, cheered wins, and lifted each other through doubts. My vision grew clearer. I wasn't just chasing a career, I was chasing a legacy of impact. Vision demands action, and action demands courage. Hill said, "Do not wait, the time will never be just right." I didn't wait for perfection. I pitched myself to local events, my voice trembling, but my purpose steady. I got rejections, hundreds of them, but I remembered Henry Ford, who faced skepticism before building an empire. Each no was a lesson, not a defeat. I kept pitching, kept speaking, kept growing. One day, a small conference took a chance on me. I spoke to 200 people, my heart racing but my words clear. The applause wasn't just for my talk, it was for every fear I'd faced to get there. That gig led to another, then another. Ignite was no longer a dream, it was real. Action breeds gratitude, and gratitude shifts everything. I started each morning listing 3 things I was thankful for. My mentor's guidance, my audience's trust, my chance to try again. Hill believed gratitude aligns you with life's abundance, and I felt it. Even my fears became something to be grateful for, not because they were kind, but because they pushed me to grow. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination, yet he built a world of wonder. My fears weren't the end, they were the forge that shaped me. I began giving back, offering free workshops for teens, sharing my story to show them fear is universal but conquerable. Every time I spoke, I saw myself in their eyes, scared but hungry for more. Gratitude fuels adaptability. The speaking world is unpredictable, canceled events, tough crowds, tech failures. I faced them all, a microphone dying mid-talk, an audience that didn't laugh at my jokes, a booking that fell through hours before a flight. Each challenge tested me, but I leaned on Hill's applied faith, trusting that every problem has a solution. When my mic failed, I projected my voice. When the crowd was silent, I doubled down on my story. When a gig canceled, I found another. Adaptability wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. Like Abraham Lincoln, who rose from countless defeats to lead a nation, I learned setbacks are just stepping stones. Resilience is the heartbeat of transformation. There were days I wanted to quit, when a harsh review cut deep, when exhaustion made my dream feel heavy, when fear whispered, "You're still not enough." But resilience isn't about never falling, it's about getting up. Hill said, "Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage." My adversity was fear, my advantage was strength. I kept speaking, kept writing, kept building Ignite. My talks grew from local gigs to national conferences. I spoke to 5,000 people at a leadership summit, my voice steady, my story alive. The standing ovation wasn't just for me. It was for every moment I chose courage over comfort. Learning became my compass. Hill championed lifelong learning, and I embraced it. I studied storytelling, psychology, leadership. I learned from failures, like a talk that flopped because I tried too hard to impress, and from successes, like a keynote that went viral online. I learned from my audience, their questions, their stories. I learned from history, Andrew Carnegie, who turned knowledge into empires, Marie Curie, who defied odds to change science. Every lesson made me sharper, bolder, ready for bigger stages. Ignite grew, not despite my fears, but because I learned to dance with them. The journey doesn't end, but it transforms you. Today, Ignite is a movement, workshops, keynotes, a podcast reaching millions. I've spoken in 20 countries, shared stages with my heroes, and helped thousands break free from their fears. But the real victory isn't the applause or the numbers. It's the emails from strangers saying, "Your story gave me courage." It's the teen who stood up to speak after my workshop, voice shaking but eyes bright. Hill said, "Your big opportunity may be right where you are now." Mine was in the grip of fear, in the moments I chose to push through. I broke free, not because I was fearless, but because I refused to stay trapped. Yes, you listening to this, you're not your fears. They don't define you. They're just doors, heavy but unlockable. The dream inside you, the one you've buried under doubt, is still alive. It's waiting for you to claim it. Take that first step, no matter how small. Speak that first word, no matter how shaky. Trust that spark inside you, no matter how faint. You are not trapped. You are not broken. You are a force, a story, a legacy ready to soar. The fear you feel today, it's not your cage. It's your wings. Spread them. Fly.